Okay, gentlemen, we left off in the book of Luke, chapter 20. One of the questions that came up last week was the question of who really were the Samaritans. Anybody get a chance to look into who they were?
If you go back to the Old Testament, aren't they? Didn't they splinter off from the tribe of Judah and Benjamin, and they went north and they start worshiping the calves with Jeroboam?
Well, they were, yeah, they were Israelites. Okay, they split off from Israel, and basically established their own religion. They didn't accept any of the Old Testament except for the first 5 books, the books of Moses. Didn't accept any of the prophets. Didn't accept the fact that the temple was built in Jerusalem. They couldn't accept that. So essentially they established their own religion. Therefore they became the outcast of the Jews and hated because of that. Why they did that, we're not sure, but they were Jews. Well, they were Israelites who just couldn't accept the rest of the Bible. And so basically they established their own religion, and they worshipped on Mount Gerizim rather than in Jerusalem there. So there was always a rift between those two. Okay, we left off at chapter 20, book of Luke. Now it happened on one of those days that as he taught the people in the temple and preached the gospel, the chief priests and scribes together with the elders confronted him. And they spoke to him, saying, "Tell us, by what authority are you doing these things, or who is he who gave you this authority?" And he answered and said, "I will also ask you one thing, and answer me. The baptism of John, was it from heaven or from men?" And they reasoned among themselves, saying, "Well, if we say from heaven, he will say, then why then did you not believe him? If we say from men, all the people will stone us. For they were persuaded that John was a prophet." So they answered that they did not know where it was from. And Jesus said, "Neither will I tell you by what authority I do these things." So he's kind of throwing it back in their face. "You want to know my authority? What's yours?" And essentially what he's doing, so they refused to answer him, so he refused to answer them. And sometimes there's simply a lot of wisdom. I mean, Paul talks about it in the New Testament to avoid vain repetitions, to avoid arguments, because it does no good. I know people who just love to argue against the Bible, but no matter what you do, you're not going to persuade them. So you just don't do it. You know, Barb and I have learned to stay away from a particular family member because of that. Just don't bring it up, because it's just going to create arguments. They have no interest in Christianity. Verse 9, and then he began to tell the people this parable. Certain man planted a vineyard leased to vine dressers and went into a far country for a long time. Now at vintage time he sent a servant to the vine dressers that they may give him some of the fruit of the vineyard. But the vine dressers beat him and sent him away empty-handed. And he sent another servant. They beat him also, treated him shamefully, and sent him away empty-handed. And again he sent a third, and they wounded him also and cast him out. And the owner of the vineyard said, "What shall I do? I will send my beloved son. Probably they will respect him when they see him." But when the vine dressers saw him, they reasoned among themselves, saying, "This is the heir. Come, let us kill him, that the inheritance may be ours." So they cast him out of the vineyard and killed him. Therefore, what will the owner of the vineyard do to them? He will come and destroy those vine dressers and give the vineyard to others. And when they heard it, they said, "Certainly not." And he looked at them and said, "What then is this that is written? The stone which the builders rejected has become the chief cornerstone. Whoever falls on that stone will be broken, but on whomever it falls, it will grind into powder." And the chief priests and scribes that very hour sought to lay hands on him, but they feared the people, for they knew that he had spoken this parable against them. Again, don't do anything against God or his son. You're going to be in a heap of trouble. And he refers to himself as a stone, which is referred to in other parts of Scripture. If that stone falls on you, it's going to grind you to dust. So some people will say, "Oh, that's just pure violence." But he's given them a warning. Don't go against God. It's not going to be good for you. Some of these parables had really some heavy meanings. And Jesus did not pull his punches. Verse 20. So they watched him and sent spies who pretended to be righteous that they might seize on his words in order to deliver him to the power and the authority of the governor. And they asked him, saying, Teacher, we know that you say and teach rightly. You do not show personal favoritism, but teach the way of God truly. Is it lawful for us to pay taxes to Caesar or not? But he perceived their craftiness and said, Why do you test me? Show me a denarius. Whose image and inscription does it have? They answered and said, Caesar's. He said, well then, render therefore to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God's. But they could not catch him in his words in the presence of the people. And they marveled at his answer and kept silent. Just basic wisdom, you know? No argument, just a basic statement, and that's it. They had to keep silent. Then some of the Sadducees, who deny that there is a resurrection, came and asked him, Teacher, Moses wrote to us that if a man's brother dies, having a wife, and he dies without children, his brother should take his wife and raise up offspring for his brother. Now there were 7 brothers. The first took a wife, died without children. The second took her as a wife, he died childless. The third took her, and in like manner the 7 also, and they left no children and died. Last of all, the woman died. Therefore, in the resurrection, whose wife does she become? For all 7 had her as a wife. Interesting question, right? And Jesus said, the sons of this age marry and are given in marriage. But those who are counted worthy to attain that age in the resurrection from the dead neither marry nor are given in marriage, nor can they die anymore, for they are equal to the angels and are sons of God, being sons of the resurrection. Now even Moses showed in the burning bush passage that the dead are raised, and when he called the Lord the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, for he is not the God of the dead, but of the living, for all live to him. And some of the scribes answered and said, Teacher, you've spoken well. But after that, they dared not to question him anymore. Interesting, it does bring up that question that people bring up about, because every once in a while you got people who believe the angels come down and they marry. In fact, in the book of Genesis, the angels came down and they married the offspring of men, and there gave rise to the age of giants. Well, the Bible is very clear that angels are not sexual. They do not marry, they are not given marriage. And when we go to heaven, the same thing. There is no marriage in heaven, which brings up the question. So if I pass, my wife passes, when we get to heaven, I'm assuming we're going to know everybody, but are we married? Jesus said there is no marriage in heaven. Now whether he meant when you get to heaven, you don't marry, so I have no idea.
I have a question.
Mike.
During the millennial period of time, 1,000 years, right? The people that basically goes in there, right? They're not in the glorified bodies, correct? They're not as of yet at the glorified.
During the millennium?
Yeah.
No, that's what happens during the millennium. Christ returns to earth with the saints who have already in heaven, who have glorified bodies.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the people that's going to obey, the people that survive the tribulation.
Yeah, they're still normal people, yeah.
At that point in time, will they be, since they're not in the glorified bodies, will they be married?
Oh yeah, life continues.
But the saints won't be.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, the interesting period of time, the 1,000 years of when Christ comes back to earth, when righteous reign finally comes, life is going to go on, but it's going to be done right. It's going to be done right. And what we understand in the Bible, when we return with him, we will be in governing position somehow. And yet a lot of it we really don't understand, but it will happen.
Thank you.
Okay, basically he shut him down, okay? Verse 41. And he said then, how can they say that Christ is David's son? Now David himself said in the book of Psalms, the Lord said to my Lord, sit at my right hand till I make your enemies your footstool. David therefore calls him Lord. Now how is then he his son? Then in the hearing of all the people, he said to his disciples, beware of the scribes who desire to walk in long robes, love greetings in the marketplace, best seats in the synagogue, the best places at feast, who devour widows' houses and for a pretense make long prayers. These will receive greater damnation. And again, his harshest judgments are always against those who appear to be very, very religious, those who do it more for show, those who love to bring attention to themselves, is what he's saying. Those who, oh, let me pray, and they'll pray, and they'll pray, and they long big words thinking that they're impressing people. And Jesus said, no, they're just condemning themselves. It's a bunch of baloney. And you've got people like that, those who who just need to be seen, need to be heard, and why, I don't know. Maybe they think that they're trying to prove that how religious they are, I'm not sure. But that was the problem with the scribes and the Pharisees. They had to be noticed. Jesus says, not going to do you any good. You know, you get to heaven. Any questions on that chapter? Hey, 21. Then he looked up and saw the rich putting their gifts into the treasury. And he also saw a certain poor widow putting in 2 mites. He said, truly, I say to you that this poor widow has put in more than all. For all these out of their abundance have put in offerings for God. But she, out of her poverty, has put in all the livelihood that she had. Again, attacking the Pharisees and the Sadducees, making sure people saw what they give, making sure everybody knew. Pastor, make sure my name's on that plaque. I want people to know I donated all this. You know, and you still got those people. And Jesus knows that the best gift is the person that gives out of their need. And you may give a penny, the other person may give $1,000, but blessed is that penny. It's more profitable in the kingdom. Verse 5. Then, as he spoke in the temple, how it was adorned with beautiful stones and donations, he said, as for these things which you see, the days will come in which not one stone will be left upon another that shall not be thrown down. And the scribes and the Pharisees and the priests took objection to that. They kind of made up their minds that he was talking about he was going to destroy the temple. And really, it wasn't too many years later when the Romans came in and actually destroyed the temple. I think it was 70 AD. So that was another probably 30 years later. So he was not saying, I'm going to come in and destroy it. He was saying, listen, it's going to happen. This place which you revere so highly is going to fall. 7. And they asked him, saying, Teacher, but when will these things be? And what sign will there be when these things are about to take place? He said, take heed that you do not be deceived. Many will come in my name, saying, I am he. The time is drawn near, therefore do not go after them. But when you hear of wars and commotions, don't be terrified. These things must come to pass first, but the end will not come immediately. And he said to them, nation will rise against nation, kingdom against kingdom. There will be great earthquakes in various places, famines, pestilences, fearful sights and great signs from the heaven. But before all these things, they will lay their hands on you and persecute you, delivering you up to the synagogues and prisons, and you will be brought before kings and rulers for my name's sake. But it will turn out for you as an occasion for testimony. Therefore settle it in your hearts not to meditate beforehand on what you will answer. For I will give you a mouth and wisdom which all your adversaries will not be able to contradict or resist. You will be betrayed even by parents and brothers, relatives and friends, and they will send somebody to your death. You will be hated by all for my name's sake, but not a hair of your head will be lost. In your patience possess your souls. So he's actually letting them know what's about to happen, and this is exactly what happened. Christians suddenly became persecuted, brother would turn against brother, parents against children, children against parents. They were brought before the magistrates, and he says, use it as a time for your testimony. And then he does say, some of you will be killed. So this whole bunch of baloney, and you become a Christian, you're protected. No, Christians are being persecuted even today. The book I think I mentioned yesterday that I just finished reading chronicles what's happening in the Middle East in some of these countries. And the book before that chronicled the true stories, I think 7 different women in the Middle East. Some of them came out of Islam, others came out of other, but the persecution of them and their families, and families were slaughtered. And even now, what bothers me is what's going on in Europe right now, in England, in Germany, France. Have you been paying attention to what's going on? It's not on the news. But this is the month of Ramadan, and they've been slaughtering Christians, burning them, killing them, beheading them, just going into all these towns. The news doesn't cover it. Well, when I finished this book on the third jihad the other day, he talks about this, and the reason why the government is not going to talk about it, because they're afraid of the Muslims. You don't want to be found guilty of what do they call it when you're anti-Islam? But you know, the problem is, you can't talk about it, because they're afraid that Muslims will do something, an attack, which they will. Just like he said, when this Muslim army officer killed a lot of guys on base, he was associated with ISIS. They called it workplace violence. They refused to say that he was a Muslim or he was a terrorist. That's exactly what he was. So it brings up the point today. This is exactly what's going on. Your mainstream news are not going to cover these things, because it's going to upset the Muslim world. And I don't know how much you guys read about what's going on right now, but there's a lot of garbage going on, even in America. We have a lot of people in government who are pro-Islam, anti-American. Many of them are pro-Sharia law. And I think, how in the world are people voting these people in? Did you, we're not supposed to be political in church, but I could care less. So I'm watching this video of, what's her name? What's that, the black congresswoman?
Presley?
Huh?
Presley?
No. She's ugly. What's her name? Oh,
Omar.
No, not her, but she's another problem, the other one. Anyway, I'm watching this video, and she's blasting the Trump administration about the deportation. And she said, well, then why aren't they deporting Melania? She's illegal. She's got no papers. Her parents came over illegally. So, first of all, let's get her deported. And I like you. Then the commentator comes on. He says, here are the facts. Melania came over as a model, became a U.S. citizen. A couple years later, her parents came over, became U.S. citizens. So everything this woman's saying is a pure lie. So they make up things, and her constituents believe it. Oh, what's her name? It's on my... But she's one of the worst ones.
Does she get a bald head?
What?
Does she have a bald head?
No. Oh, I'll remember it in a minute. But every time I see her on TV, I go, oh my.
Are you talking about Ocasio?
No. She's another problem. But yeah, look at the fact she's taken so many $1 million from U.S. aid, married her brother just to get him over here illegally, and she promotes Sharia law. So they leave their countries to get away from something to try to promote over here. Figure that one out. I don't get it. Anyway, so now I just read this morning, somebody's running against Ocasio. They're running against her. Oh, I hope people wise up, because one of the candidates for mayor is a Muslim who's associated with terrorists. And he's now running second place in the race. I'm thinking, really? Are people that stupid? But hey, that's just my take on it, okay?
You know, so like you said, in times, America's not in it, so...
Yeah, and the whole thing is that the Bible predicts these things. We just always assume it's never going to happen to us in America. But the problem is, like I read an article the other day, we are no longer a Christian nation. We are simply Christians living in the United States. And suddenly we have become the minority, not the majority, where most people are very anti-Christian, anti-evangelicalism, anti-this, anti-that, and it's a sad story. And this stuff is creeping into some of our churches, some of this philosophy. So, well, where did I leave off here? They go to the process.
20. Yeah, 20.
Oh, 20?
20.
Okay. But when you see Jerusalem surrounded by armies, know that desolation is near. Let those in Judea flee to the mountains. Let those who are in the midst of her depart. Let those who are in the country enter her. For these are the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled. Woe to those who are pregnant, those who are nursing babies in those days, for there will be great distress in the land and wrath upon this people. They will fall by the edge of the sword, be led away captive into all nations. Jerusalem will be trampled by Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles are fulfilled. And that happened exactly. Exactly. Not only did Rome conquer it, but then the Muslims came in and conquered it for a long, long time. And then there will be signs in the sun, in the moon, in the stars, on earth, distress of nations with perplexity, the sea, the waves roaring, men's hearts failing them from fear, the expectation of those things which are coming on the earth, for the powers of heaven will be shaken. Then they will see the Son of Man come in a cloud with power and great glory. Now when these things begin to happen, look up, lift up your heads, because your redemption draws nigh. So the last part of that, now the first part of it deals with destruction of Jerusalem. The last part of it deals with his coming. Okay? These are the things you're going to see happen. You know, distress all around the world, anxiety, perplexity, people dying of heart attacks, things happening in the heavens and the earth, and then all these says, get ready, because the Son of Man is going to come. And then he spoke to him another parable. Look at the fig tree and all the trees. When they are already budding, you see and you know for yourselves that summer is now near. So you likewise, when you see these things happening, know that the kingdom of God is near. Assuredly I say to you, this generation will by no means pass away till all these things are fulfilled. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will by no means pass away. Interesting parable, because throughout Scripture, the Jews have often been referred to as parts of a fig tree. And he talks about the blossoming of the fig tree. And you know when the fig tree begins to blossom, it's going to produce fruit. And then that last quote says, the generation that sees this will not perish until these things happen. So many have assumed and believed that once Israel came back and become a nation and begin to bud and begin to flourish, the generation that sees that will be here when he comes. That's my generation. And so it kind of puts it in context. Now whether we're right or not, we don't know. But he does say the generation that sees these things is going to be the generation around when these things start happening. So the thing is, we've got to be very vigilant at this point. Verse 34, but take heed to yourselves, lest your hearts be weighed down with carousing, drunkenness, cares of this life, and that day come on you unexpectedly. For it will come as a snare on all those who dwell on the face of the whole earth. Watch therefore and pray always that you may be counted worthy to escape all these things that will come to pass, and to stand before the Son of Man. And in the daytime he was teaching in the temple, but at night he went out and stayed in the mountain called Olivet. And early in the morning all the people came to him in the temple to hear him. And again, this discourse on the coming of times is, listen, don't get all worried up about it, okay? It's going to happen, but remain faithful, hang in there. Keep your eyes open, keep watching that you may be found faithful. Don't get so caught up with this, we've been hearing this all our lives, that you start living a life that's not Christian, which happens. I hear it all the time. Well, you know, I've been hearing this since I was a kid, so obviously it's not going to happen. And so people let down their guard. And there are people, I remember a young lady one time, I'd ask her, talking about Christianity and why she became a Christian. She said, well, I became a Christian so I wouldn't go to hell. That was the only reason she did. She didn't want to go to hell, so she became a Christian. But she really wasn't interested in living the life. She just wanted to get saved. And so there's still a lot of people like that. And when they find out, well, this is not all what I thought it was going to be, so they go back to their old life. And this happens a lot. Let's see if we can go through one more chapter, 22. Now the feast of unleavened bread drew near, which is called Passover. The chief priests and scribes sought how they might kill them, and they feared the people. Then Satan entered Judas, surnamed Iscariot, who was numbered among the 12. So he went his way and conferred with the chief priests and captains how he might betray him to them. And they were glad and agreed to give him money. Then he promised and sought opportunity to betray him to them in the absence of the multitude. Then came the day of unleavened bread, when the Passover must be killed. And he sent Peter and John, saying, go prepare the Passover for us, that we may eat. They said to him, where do you want us to prepare? He said, behold, when you enter the city, a man will meet you carrying a pitcher of water. Follow him into the house where he enters. Then you will say to the master of the house, the teacher says to you, where is the guest room, that I may eat the Passover with my disciples? He will show you a large furnished upper room. there make ready. So they went, found it as he had said, and prepared Passover. When the hour had come, he sat down, and the 12 apostles with him. And he said to them, with fervent desire, I have desired to eat this Passover with you before I suffer. For I say to you, I will no longer eat of it until it is fulfilled in the kingdom of God. And he took the cup and gave thanks. He said, take this, divide it among yourselves. For I say to you, I will not drink of the fruit of the vine until the kingdom of God comes. And he took bread, gave thanks, broke it, gave to them, saying, this is my body, which is given for me. Do this in remembrance of me. And likewise he took the cup. This cup is the new covenant of my blood, which I shed for you. Behold, the hand of my betrayer is with me on the table. And truly the Son of Man goes as has been determined, but woe to that man by whom he is betrayed. And then they began to question among themselves which of them it was who would do this thing. Now, again, they don't understand, okay? Now, they find the room. Good morning, John. They find the room. He meets them there. Said, listen, this is the last time I'm going to be eating with you. They don't get it. It's the last time I'm going to drink the fruit of the vine. It's the last time I'm going to eat bread. Do this with me, okay? When you eat the bread, it represents my body. You drink the fruit of the vine, it represents my blood, which is shed for you. You would think a little light would go off in their heads. What does he mean, his blood? Nobody questions it, okay? Then he makes a statement. One of you here is going to betray me. There's a lot of background noise going on online there. Somebody might want to turn your mics off just for a second. So they still don't really get it. And hold on here, where did I leave off? We left off
24.
24. But there was also rivalry among them as to which of them should be considered the greatest. And he said, the kings of the Gentiles exercise lordship over them, and those who exercise authority over them are called benefactors. But not so among you. On the contrary, he who is greatest among you, let him be as the younger. He who governs as he who serves. For who is greater, he who sits at the table, or he who serves? Is it as not he who sits at the table? Yet I am among you as the one who serves. Again, using himself as an example. You are those who have continued with me in my trials. I have bestowed upon you a kingdom, just as my Father bestowed one upon me, that you may eat, drink at my table, in my kingdom, sit on thrones, judging the 12 tribes of Israel. Okay? Again, there's always those who want the forefront. Okay? Jesus said, this is not so. You know, your position is not to lord it over. Your position is to serve one another. Look at me. But he said, listen, I'm the Lord. But listen, I am serving you. That is your job, to serve one another. 31, and he says, Simon, indeed, Satan has asked for you, that he may sift you as wheat. But I prayed for you, that your faith will not fail. And when you have returned to me, strengthen your brethren. So, interesting prophecy. None of them get. Peter, you're gonna fail. I have prayed for you. But when you recover yourself, you will use what happened to strengthen your brethren. Excuse me. But he said to him, Lord, I am ready to go with you to prison, to death. He said, Peter, the rooster will not crow this day before you will deny me 3 times that you even know me. And he said to him, when I sent you without money bag, sack, and sandals, did you lack anything? He said, nothing. But now who has a money bag? Let him take it. Likewise the sack. He who has no sword, let him sell his garments and buy one. For I say to you that which is written must still be accomplished in me. And he who was numbered with the transgressors, for the things concerning me have an end. And he said, look, here are 2 swords. He said to them, it is enough. Interesting, okay? You remember what I told you guys? You go out, take nothing with you. Did you lack for anything? No. Okay. From now on, be prepared. Make sure you take food, take money. He says, here's the interesting part. Get a sword. Now, some would block it. He says, be ready. You're going to be persecuted. They're going to come after you to kill you. So what he's, it's interesting, he's actually advocating self-defense. He said, Lord, we've got 2 swords. That's enough. Okay? Okay, let's continue on here. Yeah, Mark.
It's interesting that he suggested that after he knew he was going to go to be with the Father. You know what I mean? Because before that, he was with them, so he really had nothing to worry about. And it's also interesting that they didn't get it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Because while he's with them, of course, they're not going to face anything. He's going to, just speak a word and everybody falls down. But now he says, I'm going. You may need to take care of yourselves. Yeah. Verse 39. And coming out, he went to the Mount of Olives as he was accustomed, and his disciples followed him. When he came to the place, he said, pray that you may not enter into temptation. And he was withdrawn from them about a stone's throw, and he knelt down and prayed, saying, Father, if it is your will, remove this cup from me. Nevertheless, not my will, but yours be done. An angel appeared to him from heaven, strengthened him. Being in agony, he prayed more earnestly. His sweat became like great drops of blood falling down to the ground. And when he rose up from prayer and come to his disciples, he found them sleeping from sorrow. And he said, why do you sleep? Rise and pray, lest you enter into temptation. While he was still speaking, behold, a multitude. And he who was called Judas, one of the 12, went before them, drew near to Jesus and kissed him. And Jesus said, Judas, are you betraying the Son of Man with a kiss? And when those around him saw what was going to happen, they said, Lord, shall we strike with the sword? One of them struck the servant of the high priest and cut off his right ear. And Jesus said, permit even this, touched his ear and healed him. And Jesus said to the chief priests, captains of the temple, and the elders who had come to him, said, have you come out against a robber with swords and clubs? When I was with you daily in the temple, and you did not try to seize me, but this is your hour and the power of darkness. So he admits it's time. And he admits it's the power of darkness. Having arrested him, they led him, brought him into the high priest's house, and Peter followed at a distance. And when they had kindled a fire in the midst of the courtyard and sat down together, Peter sat among them. A certain servant girl, seeing him as he sat by the fire, looked intently and said, this man was also with him. But he denied him, saying, woman, I don't know him. After a little while, another saw him and said, you are also one of them. But Peter said, man, I am not. After about an hour had passed, another confidently confirmed, saying, surely this fellow also with him, for he's Galilean. Peter says, man, I do not know what you're saying. And immediately, while he was still speaking, the rooster crowed. And the Lord turned and looked at, that had to be, can you imagine that? Mm-hmm. Jesus turns and catches Peter right in the eyes, okay? And Peter remembered what the Lord had said. Before the rooster crows, you will deny me 3 times. Peter went out and wept bitterly.
No, it's interesting how this whole thing is. Jesus told Peter this.
Yeah.
After the first time, did you think you would leave?
You would think.
The second time, did you think you would go? It's like, what the heck? What do you want? It's like he gave you warning. It's like, I don't believe what you're saying.
Yeah.
Just a few hours earlier. It wasn't like it was a week or 2 ago.
That's what
You're right. I mean, you're talking about a short while ago. Jesus said, you're going to do this.
Yeah.
Peter, no, never. And they're right. 3 times in a row, you think it's something go through his head. But I think here's what, number one, caught up in the moment, fear. And when he did it, when his eyes met Jesus, I can't even begin to fathom how he must have felt at that point. And he said he just ran out and wept bitterly. Just like, he was a broken man now. But remember, if he remembers what Jesus told him, when you get yourself together, you come back and you strengthen the rest of them. Okay? Now, I think he's going to have a hard time with that, because I imagine he feels more like a failure now. I failed him. I'm no good, So let's continue on. Now, the men who held Jesus mocked him and beat him. Having blindfolded him, they struck him in the face and asked him, saying, prophesy, who is it that struck you? And many others, they blasphemously spoke against him. As soon as it was day, the elders of the people, both chief priests and scribes, came together and led him into their council, saying, if you are the Christ, tell us. But he says, I tell you, if I tell you, you will by no means believe. And if I also ask you, you will by no means answer me or let me go. Hereafter, the Son of Man will sit on the right hand of the power of God. And they all said, are you then the Son of God? He said, you rightly say that I am. And they said, what further testimony do we need? For we have heard it ourselves from his own mouth. We make a notice here, we'll pick up at 23. So now he's officially arrested. They want him to admit who he was, who he is. And it's amazing, he says, you have rightly determined. So who are you? He says, when this is finished, and again, Jesus knows he's going to die. Because he says, when this is over, I will be seated at the right hand of the Father in heaven. And now in their mind, this is all the proof we need. He's saying he is God. And we'll pick that up next week. So it's interesting, okay? Any questions on any of that?
It's interesting that in the court of law today, that would be disallowed because it's hearsay.
Yeah.
Just because he says it, it's hearsay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's interesting. And they believed it back in those.
Yeah.